Being an activist, but what do you say to your critics?
Again, you're being an activist. I am
That's not appropriate, sir.
Who are you with? What's your name?
That's an appropriate question for you to ask.
You're going to ask how many questions? You get 3?
You're a stupid son of a bitch.
Good morning, Liberty lovers, Liberty curious, and anyone else tuning in to Friendly Fire. If you're watching live, then let me especially thank you for tuning in so early. This show is dedicated to interviewing libertarian candidates running for office and only libertarian candidates. As the name suggests, candidates will be asked some tough questions. But as a fellow libertarian, I'm not here to make them look foolish or fail. I'm raising the bar for how we interview candidates, and by doing so, raising the expectations that we have for our candidates. The Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States and the only viable option to compete with the big two and restore liberty in the rightful hands of the people. And if you're going to compete, then we need to do so at all levels, be it candidates, party leaders, and yes, even our podcast. With having said all of that, an unfortunate emergency has taken Matt, who is scheduled to be on this morning, from us. However, the show must go on. In his place, I'll introduce a new segment to the program called Liberty Community Updates. But first, if you like the show and what I'm doing, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you'll be alerted when new episodes come out. And not just new episodes, new shows too. In addition to Friendly Fire, I'm bringing Dad Talk back. And that's where I raise the voices of dads by bringing on regular everyday dads and having a chat with them about what they find important. I'm also working on a new show that I'm going to keep a little secret for now, but I think you'll enjoy it. So stay tuned for that. Second, Friendly Fire is seeking libertarian candidates to interview. It doesn't matter what state they're from. If it's you or someone you know and they're running for public office as a libertarian candidate, then I want to connect. And it doesn't matter whether that office is local, state, or national. I want to interview them or you if it happens to be you. So reach out by connecting with me at Liberty Dad on Facebook, Liberty Dad Pod on Twitter, or Liberty Dad Podcast at gmail.com. The goal of Friendly Fire is to bring candidates on, ask them tough questions, promote their run for public office, and showcase the many hardworking libertarian candidates that are running for office. Right now, the shows are weekly on Monday mornings at 7:30 a.m. And with your help, I'll expand this show to as many days as needed to introduce the wider world to our amazing candidates. And I'll keep up the tough questions to make sure that they're ready. So let's get on to that Liberty community updates. Let me give you a little bit of background here, what's going on. I, on a whim, decided to post on Facebook and on Twitter, just asking people what they had done for the Liberty community that prior week. The goal at the time was just kind of to ask a question and get away from some of the drama and the infighting that we unfortunately can be known for. And then it kind of developed because I got a lot of responses. It was pretty amazing. And some of the things that I read were exciting. And I said, you know what? We should report this to other people. We should get this information out to others so they can get excited and hopefully get motivated to do some of their own things. Now, I'm going to report on these, and it doesn't matter how big or small, if you will. I'm going to read them out and talk about what they did. Excuse me. Now, I don't know how frequently that will necessarily put that question out on Facebook or social, or any of the social media, but I will at some recurring basis put the question out, and then I will collect the answers and we'll make a segment out of it. This segment here today, considering that Matt is not with us today, it's going to go a little bit longer than you might expect. So I guess you can kind of look at this as an inaugural segment that's going to go a little longer, but then we'll shrink it down a little bit to be a smaller portion of the entire show. So here's what it's going to contain. It will have the first name or a moniker if it's appropriate. So if anybody posts and they have a pretty raunchy name, probably won't read it. We'll just go with anonymous. I'll read what you did, and I may or may not offer a brief comment on the topic or on what you've said. And keep in mind, the responses there can be quite a few responses. So for right now, today, I'll be reading all of them and we'll talk about them. And then in the future, I may have to just kind of pick and choose and see what I can, what I can fit into a smaller segment. So it's kind of a new thing that I'm doing. I haven't quite worked out all the details, but we're going to go ahead and see what people have been up to. But first, we need to have a little intro for that, right? So I've got an intro here. So let's check it out. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's just going to be the intro to the segment on a recurring basis. So let's go ahead and see what we've got. I'm going to pull up Facebook here and I'm just going to go down the line. I'm going to read a first name and what they did. So let's see what we've got. We've got Chad who donated. All right. Awesome. Jacob had a great talk with his dad that week on how the border crisis invasion of immigrants, quote unquote, has always been a distraction and an excuse to grow government power, and how Trump's economy wasn't really good. It was the same cronyism that everyone before him did, and how the real problem is the Fed. Good job, Jacob. Stephen worked on onboarding calls to people in Ohio who expressed interest in the Ohio Mises Caucus. The Mises Caucus, for those who may not be familiar, is a smaller subset of a smaller group within the Libertarian Party. Tim had a sidewalk sale appearance, and he had a picture here, which I'm not able to put up on the screen, but I will link to these posts because they're all public posts. So I'm going to link to them in the show notes, and you'll be able to go through and see who they are. And if there were any pictures or graphics that were associated with it, you'll be able to see those. RJ sold a few more shirts and had talks about liberty to friends and strangers. And then he reread The Road to Serfdom, good book, by the way, and worked on some preliminary stuff for podcast reels that he plans to record soon. Matt convinced his well connected, for a small town at least, and well off Republican dad that school choice vouchers are a very viable and plausible way to fight the public school system. And he sounds very interested in helping pressure the city council to implement it. So good job, Matt. We always need to reach out and and work with the people that are around us to get them on board with some of the ideas that we have. Greg donated to candidates and helped answer questions about qualifying for ballot. So this is a great thing. We need candidates to qualify for the ballot, and we want to make sure that if they've got questions, we have a go-to person. So see Greg. I'm not sure I'll pronounce this name correctly, so bear with me. But Joy ran defense in Portland with a group while the police were doing homeless sweeps, and then delivered 2 trucks filled with food to multiple people running backyard free food pantries around the city. Marcus went to his monthly affiliate social, and he was able to get extra people by calling them on the phone to come ahead of time. Happens to be the same affiliate that I attend, and it was a really great turnout at that particular affiliate social. Kenneth was re-engaging with his local affiliate, and stepping away from national. That happens, and then routed earmark funds from national to local. So you know what? That almost sounds like, hey, that's a bad thing, but I understand that sometimes people get a little frustrated with their national or their state party. So don't forget your local party, because sometimes they're doing things that you can still get on board with. Justin is married to the chair of the Libertarian Party of Minnesota Convention Committee. So it's always a plus. And they are already planning for 2023. So hopefully that one will be as great as anyone's before it, and maybe even better. Patrick said he tweeted and included a graphic here. Brian gave to candidates, planned for the Libertarian Party of Florida events, and ran for office. Andrew is on vacation from Liberty work this week or that week, and he had been going to a bunch of baseball games with his dad. You know what? It almost sounds like, but how does that affect Liberty? Well, if you get burnt out, then you're not going to be very effective for Liberty. So you need to make sure to take some time for yourself and never, ever forget your friends and family. I get it. They're not always part of the Liberty movement necessarily, but that doesn't mean that we should be so involved in the movement that we forget about them. Let's see who's up next here. Let's see. We've got Anthony here. Getting stuff set up for their monthly meeting, reading Hazlitt, and then recruited 2 new members to his county. So good job, Anthony. Diona, last night the affiliate, and again, remember these answers came in a couple of weeks ago. I'm just kind of now getting to the point where I've kind of worked out what I'm doing and how I'm going to incorporate these into my podcast here. But last night Diona said that they had an affiliate event where nonpartisan candidate for a very winnable school board seat spoke. And then prior to the meeting, Diona called registered libertarians in her district to attend into the school board person's district to attend, and they had a few new people show up. So calling people works. Marcus did it. Diona did it. Start calling people if you have the nerve. I don't, strangely enough. Christina, writing a lesson plan on how to give the world's smallest political quiz, then did a ton of research on how libertarians can support the homeschool community. So good job there. Avens has been preparing her remarks for Freedom Fest, editing photos from Liberty events, answering a whole bunch of emails on libertarianism, preparing an essay about abortion rights, and continuing to work on her business, giving people access to grow your own psychedelic mushroom kits. So if you're interested in that, find this link or find the link in the show notes and look up Avens, and you can reach out to her if you're interested in some grow your own psychedelic mushroom kits. Let's see. Alex is running for central committee and posting on P4L. Unfortunately, I don't know what P4L is, but I'm going to assume that it's something to do with liberty. The L probably stands for liberty or libertarians. I'm just not really sure. So I apologize. If you see these posts come up, make sure that you post, make sure that you when you post something, you explain it out if it's some acronym or something like that, because I may not be able to get to it to ask you about it, and then as we just saw, I'll come to the show and then I'm not quite as prepared as maybe I should be. So help me out a little bit. Help me help you. Marie has been speaking to neighbors and friends about the importance of supporting April Carney. And this person, April Carney, is running for school board here in Jacksonville over what she calls the leftist Matt Carlucci in an upcoming August 23rd election. So good job. Make sure that you get out and you support those candidates, and then you talk about those candidates that you like. If you find a candidate that you like, support them by talking about them and helping influence other people to go and vote for them. Max recruited 3 new libertarians, organized Collier and Leon County for affiliation, and had a libertarian range day social with beers. And that was actually minutes prior to posting. So good job. I've been thinking about doing a range day here myself, so we'll see what happens. Desiree is working on getting Leon County affiliated with the LP, and then Justin, who was tagged in it, is heading it up. So good job there. Brian met with Hector Roos for governor, that's here in Florida, and discussed Liberty Momentum. Then he supported his campaign for governor with a $400 donation. If you can, do, but always get out there, meet these candidates, talk to them, support them in any way that you can. Gary didn't hurt people and didn't take their stuff, so that's good. We don't want to have to disown you, Gary. Aubrey just began an internship at a liberty-focused nonprofit. She gets to help design suggestions for policy in Alaska. Awesome. Look forward to seeing some of those come up. Ryan delivered game-changing exculpatory evidence to legal teams of those entrapped by the feds in the J6 operation. That's January 6th, by the way. Brandon talked, unfortunately, about how Uvalde proved individuals should not trust the government to protect them, so we shouldn't infringe on the right to self-preservation. Timothy met with 8 other libertarians and tallied the mailed primary election for the Libertarian Party of Oregon. Fina attended 3 community events representing the LP as a U.S. Senate candidate, ordered some signs, recruited 3 cheerleaders, booked 2 interviews and 2 events, caught up on campaign bookkeeping, scheduled volunteer visits, and then turned down several Republican recruiters and cheered up a few Liberty friends. You know, I like that last one, cheering up some Liberty friends. Sometimes we get frustrated doing all this work. And so it's good to have somebody call you up and say, hey, let's have a chat, and then cheer you up in some way. Randall held their county affiliate business meeting and became involved with the project to get some of the statewide candidates more face time with students on college campuses in the fall before elections. We definitely need to get out there. If you have an avenue to get into a particular place, whether it's a college campus or some other organization, tap that. We need to get out there and get motivated and do things. Hody spoke about the origins of Pride, Stonewall, and it resonated with a lot of people. That's good. One of the things that I really, really appreciate hearing, and this is probably one of my favorite things ever, is when people communicate an idea and it resonates with them. Because what that means is that you took the time to understand your audience so that when you communicated a message, they received it well. And that is the most important thing, most important skill that we can learn in the Liberty community, is to make sure that we know our audience. So when we're talking about things, they receive it and they walk away feeling better having heard it than not. Let's see here. Megan celebrated Juneteenth where it happened in Galveston, which is a county, I believe. And Missy works for Larry Sharp as one of his social media managers, and every day is liberty spreading for her. So good job, Missy. Keep up the good work. Hector, who I mentioned a moment ago, qualified for the ballot. So he is now the Libertarian Party's gubernatorial candidate for Florida. Dennis increased the size of PorkFest, the number of attendees, number of events, all sold out. Second year in a row. I was there for that first year. That was the year prior, not this year, but last year. And he is exhausted. And I can only imagine. PorkFest is huge. I went last year. I was unable to go this year, and I look forward to going next year. Roxy hosted a statewide cryptocurrency workshop, attended a SMART, all caps, city meeting to find out more about the implementation and what consequences it might have for privacy and personal liberty. Good job. I'd love to talk more about cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, I don't know much about it. So we need people out there to talk about it, and hopefully I'll come across one of these workshops and learn more about it myself. Marcia told a new person that she had just met what she had done politically. And at the end of their conversation, asked what book that she recommended to learn about, and was asked what book she recommended to learn about libertarianism. So good job. Keep up those resources on hand. So when people ask you, where can I go to find out more information, have those at your fingertips. And let's see here. Grace prevented a Mises organizer from giving up. It's always good. Remember, a moment ago, we talked about the value of reaching out to our Liberty friends and helping them when they get down and out a little bit. So sometimes people want to give up. It's happened to me. It's happened to most everybody. And if you are in it long enough, it will probably happen to you. So make sure that you give as much as you want to get. Sometimes you got to reach out and help someone out. Eric gathered signatures, door knocked, held volunteer team meetings, made phone calls, did podcasts, visited local businesses, visited local Republican Tea Party groups, posted on Facebook, Twitter, called out local politicians on Twitter, donated to candidates, shared information about other libertarian candidate campaigns, met with Tub for Jacks, also known as Jerry Rohrbaugh, and Ronald Tracy Robinson, also running in Jacksonville, and then volunteered with his church, delivered yard signs, met constituents at local affiliate meetings, went to church and visited with family. Eric, it sounds like you also need to take a little bit of time to sleep and rest up. But good work, Eric. Now, that was all the list for just Facebook. So let's hop on over to Twitter real quick and we'll run down the line here on Twitter and then we'll just kind of close the show out. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. So over here on Twitter, we see that Mark had retweeted some anti-war stuff and school choice stuff. So good job. Susie co-hosted happy hour for new members of the party, educated them on their plans to increase involvement at their county level offices and also reinvigorate a local chapter. Craig, you know what? Craig, I know that you posted elsewhere on this one. He said he was working on a few things, news to come. He followed up at a later point on a different tweet. I don't have that available, but Craig did some good stuff. And unfortunately, I don't have it right here in front of me. So I apologize. I will try to be more on the ball with this next time. Let's see here. Moving down the line. Libertarian Party of Delaware, they chimed in to say that we kept things exciting. Who knows what that means? Because, when somebody says they've kept things exciting on Twitter, that could be a challenge. Let's see. Matt, who unfortunately was unable to be with us today, he continued his campaign for city commission and met with his local affiliate and their members. Zach had language in the OPM. I don't know what OPM is. And along with another person, a resolution and planks all adopted, had language in the OPM and a resolution and all planks adopted by the state XCOM today. I don't know what state that was, but good job. It's always good to see that people get involved. And if there's some language that you don't like in some of the governing documents or some new resolutions that need to be made, work and communicate with other people, get them excited on board to have these changes made. Jack helped seed the idea that there are alternatives to statist products and services in the liberty sphere that people can exit to. And he put a graphic here. And in this graphic on the left, you see a bunch of notable businesses or companies. And then you see some alternatives that are coming out of the liberty sphere. So I encourage you to look up this graphic on Twitter and check it out and see what alternatives you might be able to join. So for instance, we've got the National Rifle Association, which nobody likes for good reason because they don't really support gun rights. And he points out that you can go to the Firearms Policy Coalition instead and support them. So he's got several other ones here. So I encourage you to go and look up that graphic. Carla was ramping up for PorkFest, did a few interviews, including the Epoch Times, and then declared running for New Hampshire House, and then did I think it's 3 shows, and cooked and cleaned and bottle washed. I'm not sure what bottle washing is. Maybe it's exactly what it sounds like, but hey, great work. Let's see. Ken said he was contributing to a fundraiser for the real Spike Cohen. Oh, well, that's his name on Twitter, but Spike Cohen. And then Catherine for Georgia, 2 great liberty minds. He says, absolutely. I completely agree. Let's see. What do we got here? Jay Crowder and myself, along with other members of LP Atlanta, are set up at Atlanta's Juneteenth Parade and Music Festival, celebrating the liberation of Black Americans and standing in solidarity with our Black communities. Good work. We need to get out there and celebrate any form of, or any instance of freedom from our government. And we're, of course, pushing for more freedom, but even the smallest amount of freedom that is won is to be celebrated. So good job on that. Lori attended a 6-hour long LPPA meeting, Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania. Now, I know that in my original post, what I said was, how did you contribute to the momentum of liberty this week? This isn't a competition post. I'm curious what everyone is up to, and don't be afraid to say seemingly small things like talking to a friend or a family member. We all vary in skill set and reach. Use what you have. But despite having said that, Lori, you may have won attending a 6-hour long meeting. I don't know anybody that would find that enjoyable, but things must be done. Let's see, Johnny and a few other locals planning an interest meeting to form a local county affiliate in Libertarian Party of the Libertarian Party of Alabama on June 28th. That has since passed. So I hope that meeting went very well, and I hope you are that much closer to having that affiliate set up. Iron County Libertarians, coalition of freedom-minded groups, having a barbecue get together later that day of this, the day that they posted it. It'll be their second annual event, so they know the allies, so they can know the allies with other groups. Libertarians are selling ribs as a fundraiser. It's a good idea. People like ribs. I like ribs. Wish I could have went. Unfortunately, I'm here in Florida. Let's see here. Well, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. It's got a bunch of interesting characters here. But it looks like they've posted some quotes. It looks like they quoted themselves in some different conversations that they had prior. And I'm trying to read here and summarize this in just a moment. Okay, so they ask a question. It's kind of a rhetorical question here. It says, if I'm the president and I order the FBI to raid everyone's homes, that's equal treatment. It's a rhetorical question. Is it not? But the Constitution doesn't say equal treatment. No, it says equal protection. This is precisely why taxing guns is unconstitutional. So good job there. And unfortunately, I cannot pronounce the name, but it looks like they were Von Gott Garretten on, at least that's that's the @ that they are, that you can find them on Twitter. Moving down the line here, Blue Nomad Gaming Show, which I assume is another podcast. Yes, it's a podcast. It's a gaming show podcast. Talked about overprinting of money being the cause of inflation with their customers, as to why they're paying higher prices and not simply greedy companies. This is very good. We really need to get out there and communicate with people what the cause of these high prices are. It's not just whatever is being spouted out in the news. And then Libertarians Who Make Art, which I believe is an organization, and they have a website, libertarianswhomakeart.com. I have not been there, so I take no responsibility for what you find there, but they posted a new article, and it's Libertarians Who Make Art, and I don't see what it doesn't show a description of what the article is about, but go check it out. People are doing things. People are making content of all forms. They're making podcasts. They're making videos. They're writing articles. They're doing, various graphics and design and all sorts of things. So it's very, very important for us to get out there, see what people are doing, and then look inward and find out what it is that we have that we can contribute to the liberty community. So that's what I have for this week. It was a little bit on the lengthier side. I don't know that I'll be able to read all of those in the future, simply because it's supposed to be a segment. But again, Matt was unable to make it this morning and the show had to go on. So I said, let's get these out and read them and get people excited about what others are doing for liberty. Let's motivate each other and let's make liberty happen. So with that, I think we're here. We're coming to a close. This will be a little bit of a shorter episode. We're running at about 30 minutes right now. So I want to thank you for tuning in. And it doesn't look like I have my closing notes, my little script here up. I'll pull that up, trying to get things worked out here. Excuse me for my voice. But at any rate, final words. Let people know about this show. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so that you get alerted when new shows come out. By the way, this show is now, I'm working on getting old episodes of the Liberty Dad podcast, just the more generic podcast that I had. I'm working on getting my videos converted to audio. This show, the audio will come out about a week after. So if you go to libertydad.com, you can see that the interview with Hector Roos is now out on audio for you to listen. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, and other places, iHeartRadio, so on and so forth. So be sure to check that out, or let people know who maybe aren't interested in watching video that the interview for Hector Roos and then following, subsequent interviews will be out on audio for them to listen. You can find me on Liberty Dad, all one word, Liberty Dad, on Spotify and all these other different podcast services, and listen to it from there. And you can listen to some of the old episodes. I encourage you to go through it and check it out. And with that, we will go ahead and close for today. Hold on real quick. I'm going to take a look at what we got here. We have some comments. See if I can see what are your thoughts on the bodega clerk who defended himself and is getting charged? And this comes from D. So really quickly, I don't know the details exactly as far as why they charged him. But what happened, and I don't know this, I can't remember the city, but what happened, there was a man, I believe it was around midnight. He was doing his job, being a clerk at a store, and another man came in and tried to rob him. And the clerk pulled out a knife, I believe, and stabbed the man. I think it was 3 times, precisely. I think it was exactly 3 times. The man bled out. The authorities were called, and the man was taken to the hospital and died. And then the man was charged with murder. I've read some things online that suggest that it gets really tricky when you have a knife, because if you stab somebody once or twice, then the question becomes, did you need to stab them at some point? At what point did you no longer need to stab them? In other words, when did it stop being self-defense, and when did it become, more an act of aggression? I think that's what's going on here. I'm not entirely certain. Even if it is something that I kind of disagree with, because let's face it, if you get stabbed once, one stab could take you out. And so I don't know that there's any particular good reason to continue to charge somebody who's continued to stab, who might in the moment feel like the threat has not been subdued enough for their own safety, because that is the entire reason for defending yourself. When you defend yourself, your only goal is to diffuse the situation by removing the threat. And if removing the threat takes it all the way up into death, then sometimes so be it. Again, it depends on the situation. I did see the video. To me, it looked like the man had every justification whatsoever to stab the man. The clerk had every justification to stab the man in self-defense. And so I look at it and say, simple self-defense. I seen that the Libertarian Party, the National Libertarian Party, I believe they tweeted about it and maybe posted a comment on Facebook in support of the man. I don't know his name at the moment. It was a question from the comments, and I don't necessarily have all the information at my fingertips. But those are my thoughts on the clerk who defended himself. My thoughts are always that if you have to defend yourself, in a way, the other person, you never know what to expect. If you break into somebody's home, if you're lucky, then you may get away by just, you may be able to get away and run off when the homeowner comes out, or the homeowner may come out and shoot first, ask questions later. And that tends to happen when you aggress against somebody. So as we heard earlier, somebody said, I didn't hurt people. I didn't steal their stuff. And you know what? You can generally prevent violence against you by not hurting people and not trying to steal their stuff. So those are my thoughts on the bodega clerk. With that, I'm going to wish you well on this podcast episode, and I will see you next Monday morning at 7:30. Remember to get that information to me. Again, I want you to reach out by connecting with me at Liberty Dad on Facebook, Liberty Dad Pod on Twitter, or Liberty Dad Podcast at gmail.com. Again, I'm looking forward to meeting more candidates and bringing them on the show, asking them tough questions, promote their run for public office, and basically showcase as many hardworking libertarian candidates as I possibly can do. So right now, I've got a good lineup for the next probably about 2 months. So go ahead and get me some more. And if you get me enough, I'll start doing this show on a more regular basis, more than just Monday mornings. So with that, I'm going to see you later. Have a good one.